Okay, welcome back. So, in this module, we are going to discuss the research theoretical framework. So, let's go on to our discussion for today. So, by definition, research theoretical framework of an experiment or a research paper refers to the larger assumptions in which the researcher is working on. So I have started with the definition because we will be contrasting this definition with the other part of the theoretical framework, which is the conceptual framework. So for example, of this theoretical framework or theory is the theory of Freud, Jung, or even Skinner under the behaviorist theory or theoretical framework. So these are large assumptions that can be broken down into smaller parts, again, in which later on we will be relating these two parts of this research. So a theoretical framework provides a large overarching structure of ideas that the researcher can draw from in beginning to analyze a phenomenon, a text, or a theory in teaching or learning. So this can either be implemented or used in qualitative or quantitative research. Okay, so in this slide, it discusses two of the purposes of the theoretical framework. So the first one is that it serves as a guide or a reference to the students writing their research. And the second one is that it allows the readers to immediately familiarize themselves with the ideas on which the study is based and a beginning point for critical analysis. The second one is for the purpose of introducing the critic or the panel or the referee of the research to the content of the paper. So experts who would be reading this paper would immediately be immersed and introduced to the concept of the paper through the theoretical framework. Okay, so earlier I mentioned that we are going to contrast the theoretical framework with another part of your research, which is the conceptual framework. So the common question is, how do you differentiate theoretical framework with conceptual framework? Well, starting off, let us define the meaning of conceptual framework, and then later on we can differentiate the two. So the definition goes, while a theoretical framework provides the general set of ideas which is broader in perspective in which a study occurs, the conceptual framework refers to the specific ideas a researcher uses in the study. So in this slide, you are going to see examples and its relationship to theoretical framework to the conceptual framework. So in chemistry, you would be introduced to a theory related to the field, and then the purpose or the part of the conceptual framework is that it breaks down the theory. So it can be broken down into the following. So examples of conceptual frameworks include methods of a chemistry experiment, the definition of a sociologist used to describe a culture, and the type of data an economist considers when evaluating a country's industry. Okay, so relevant to the example of the conceptual framework in relation to educational research is the theory of learning of Piaget. So under Piaget's theory of learning or cognitive learning, you will find concepts that discusses procedures in order to implement this theory. So this is eventually how you differentiate theory from concept. Okay, in the second definition, at the second paragraph of this slide, discusses that the purpose of the conceptual framework is to give the reader an understanding of the methods used in the research. So previously in our slide, I have already mentioned that the theory or theoretical framework also serves the same purpose. So to immerse and introduce the reader, which is in this case the critic, the referee, or the panel, to the idea, concept, theory, or method used by the writer in creating or writing their research. Identifying the role of the theoretical framework in a research, according to Dr. Ram Mehta, is that it provides a context for examining a problem, therefore constructing the rationale or reason for developing the hypothesis. The hypothesis should be formulated as a reference for the result or the outcome of the research. The second one is a frame of reference for observations, definitions of variables and concepts, research designs, interpretations, and generalizations, all of which will be part of the result or the outcome of the research. So all of this, summary of findings, conclusions, and recommendations will be based on the theory wherein the research was founded. One of the role of the theoretical framework is that it serves as a guide in the research study. So reading the first definition is that the theoretical framework plays an important role in guiding the entire process of the research study. Theories are constructed in order to explain, again, serves as a reference in order to relate the outcome to the purpose of the research, predict and master the phenomenon. So it will explain the relationships, the events, or the behavior. And the last one, a theory makes a generalization about observations consisting of interrelated coherent set of ideas and models. So basically this is the definition of a theoretical framework or a theory, wherein again it would serve as a reference for the outcome or the findings of the research. And finally, on our last slide, the theoretical framework's purpose. So the purpose of our theoretical framework is that it helps the researcher or the writer to see clearly the variables of the study. So after formulating your research title or proposed research title, the theoretical framework will help you identify these variables and differentiate them in order to clearly understand the role of each variable. The second one is that it can provide the researcher with a general framework for data analysis. So when creating or choosing your statistical formula, you'd be able to clearly identify what particular statistical analysis would be proper to use in your research. And the last one, it is essential in preparing a research proposal using descriptive and experimental method. Referring to the theoretical framework, again, the essentiality and importance of the theoretical framework is compared to the foundation of a house, wherein your house would not be able to stand if your foundation is not that concrete specific. So it clearly defines the direction of your research, where the research wants to go, the variables used in the research, the interpretation that you would be doing after you have completed the research, and proving or disproving the hypothesis of the study that you have formulated. So I hope you were able to clearly define and differentiate theoretical framework from conceptual framework, the purpose and the role of these two in your research. Hello. So again, we are done with the discussion on theoretical and conceptual framework, the definition of theory from concept, and the role of these two in your research paper. So I hope you were able to learn something again from this module and implement this in your writing of your research. So again, thank you.